Hey guys, welcome back to commentary from a D-list black belt. Today, what I have for you is Victor Hugo versus Eric Munis at the IBJJF World Championships for 2023. So this happened just the other day, and truthfully, I'm not surprised to see Munis in that match, considering how well he did against Marangali. We don't see Marangali here. He is some sort of declaration of never competing at Worlds at IBJJF again. Don't exactly know why. Don't really care to find out. Everyone has their own reasons, and so if he says he's not, he's not. Before we begin, guys, thank you so much again for the support. I'm super excited that we broke our 50 subscriber count. That's really cool. So if you're enjoying the content, please consider giving me a sub because it really helps the channel out. And once again, I want to grow it to the point where I can get called out by a Merino and then promptly decline his challenge. But let's get into it. So we've got the world fight. This match start.
We are back with the final match of the 2023 IB.
Need to mute that as well so that I don't get distracted. Oh. That was a bit of an aggressive start, wasn't it? Kind of looked like the Cookie Monster. Yeah, just diving in. I don't know if that actually counts as a takedown or not. I don't think it does because he didn't have any grips to begin with. Hugo pulled guard, I think. I'm not actually sure which is which. I think that this is Muno and this is Hugo here. I've not seen either of the athletes enough to really know who is who. But because Hugo here pulled guard before Munis got his grips, it doesn't actually count as any points. That's just fun to see. So now I have a feeling that Hugo wanted to play guard anyway. So we're into the match now rather than the formalities. Already, there's some really good grip fighting there. So Hugo on top. He has V Hugo, so I presume that actually that's Victor Hugo then, so sorry I got that wrong just before. Hugo on top tried to go for a skill check here. So he slaps, taps, and he tries to pull the foot out of the way, but Munis with his grip up top is doing really well at maintaining the connection, so now they've got 1-to-1. And Hugo tries to skill check here by just jumping straight through the guard. But you can see that was beautifully anticipated and countered by Munis with his foot on the inside. And then he's got like the foot that's going out wide as like a netting leg. Now you saw me talk about this a little bit with Marangali versus Pedro. Is that when you weave your legs to the inside, this is your maintenance actions, but your legs can also go out wider, like so, as like a big net to catch the person, because now they have to go quite far around the red track in order to get around the guard if they're going to be doing skill check guard passes, which is kind of what we saw here. Now, by skill check guard passes, I mean things that you wouldn't really expect to work at a high level, but sometimes they do. It's like, oh, are you paying attention? Because if you're not, I'm going to blitz your guard, and then 80% of my work is done. So, really good work by both of them. More so for Munis than Hugo at the moment. So we get into our close guard, and I really like this, is that Hugo just reestablishes the posture. Also, I'm really loving what I'm seeing by Munis on the bottom. Oops, what have I done? There we go. On bottom there. Now, a lot of people, when they get into a closed guard, the coaches go, you can have a rest now. But you see how Munis's head and his shoulders are off the ground. Well, the ground's down here and they're quite high up. He's not being passive in this guard. And I really like that, because no guard should be passive, and the most successful people on the planet, are always working. And so there's this thing where coaches say, right, you work to escape the side control or the mount, you reguard, then you can have a rest. That's incorrect. The only place you can have a rest is on top mount, really, and even then you can't really be resting. And so I really like what I'm seeing here is that Munis is already just being active in the guard, and he's not being passive at all, waiting for Hugo to work. And it sounds very obvious, but a lot of people fall into that trap, and I see it all the time with my own students. A little bit hard to see what's going on. So they're doing good work grip fighting. Munis is ripping the gi out so that he can either use the lapel, maybe like worm guard or some sort of lapel wrap guard. I don't know yet. I haven't actually seen this match yet. And so we'll find out together. But he's trying to rip the gi out so that he can use an incredibly effective and long grip that doesn't have any ability for it to pull itself out of his hands. So by that I mean if you grab onto my arm has its own power that it can use to fight against the grip that's on it, if that makes sense. But the lapel, because obviously it's part of the gi, is not part of your body, there's no muscle groups that you can use to directly influence the edge of the lapel, which is what makes it a very strong guard. Not to mention that it's a rope, and if you have a rope in your hand, there's much more surface area, and so it's much harder grip to break. Yeah, so he's working on this lapel, and he might be going for Saitoshi here. So the idea is that he'll be like trying to pass this hand into this one, the lapel into this hand, and then he'll flare his other leg wide, and then sit on his side facing Hugo. So it's just battling with the posture, trying to make his posture go up at the moment, and just making stuff work or trying actively to work. Now Hugo has done a really good job of, just back up a second. Hugo's done a really good job here of establishing control over the lapel, but the problem is that this whole thing is out away from his body. So he now needs to commit a whole hand to keeping that lapel grip. Otherwise, Munis on bottom is just going to re-establish it and then go directly in for what he's doing. So now he's adding more problems into the mix. He's like harassing Hugo a little bit, where if Hugo doesn't respect this even for a moment, he'll just Munis will pounce on it again, and then he'll be behind in the momentum battle. And so it's just another thing for him to respect, which is actually quite smart strategy. It looks like he's going for either a hip bump sweep or just trying to set up various different sweeps. Just trying to make stuff work. And now I really quite like this type of play because there's a lot of nuanced detail. So for example, when Munis has this grip and this grip on the pant legs, because he's so far around the corner, like look at his spine is like twisted to the left. If Munis isn't careful and he allows the hips to come in to reestablish like a straight spine, there's all of a sudden a lot of space over this way that he can get swept into, because his legs are the base, the hands are the basing mechanisms. But what Munis will do is you'll unlock his legs, swing this top one in an arc down and around as he carries the top one over the top, pulling the hand out of the way and then lifting the bicep up and over the top. And so what will happen is Munis here will be like pulled this way as he's lifted up and over the top, and then the dead space is all over here because Munis will have hopped out of the way. And because he's hacking his leg, it gets rid of the last base, and he doesn't have Hugo doesn't have his hand as a base anymore. So it's a very effective sweep called a Mayflower sweep, or pendulum sweep, depending on who you ask. The pendulum sweep that I know is done from a pocket guard, but so Munis has to respect this, and then Hugo has to respect this, and then Munis was sitting up further, threatening his right hand to come over the top of Hugo's right shoulder, either down the back or around the head. And so he stops this immediately, but then lets go of the lapel. So we'll see what happens. And then you can see that, yeah, you see that Munis went straight back for the lapel. So Hugo went straight back for the lapel. So Munis tries to break the lapel grip off, and then he's going to try and use the lapel for making something happen. Yeah, so Munis's entire plan revolves around those lapel grips that he's established before, which I really quite like, and he's just trying to find ways back into it. Now, don't get me wrong, he would also happily take a sweep wherever it comes from, but his primary plan is to use the lapels, as you can see. He's got it. Now, Hugo has gotten bored with this, and he's gone, all right, well, have it, so that I can start using my hand to work elsewhere, because otherwise we're not going to make anything work. To me, this is a mistake. You shouldn't be allowing your opponent what they want. He stacks up now. We'll see what happens here. Yep. Yeah, so this gradual advance of the position, we just saw that in its full swing. And this match is very short, so I'm willing to bet that Munis wins. But you see how Hugo stacked up, he went up, and then Munis had his plan, which was, I want this lapel out, I want both lapels out so I can attack it on side 1 or side 2, it doesn't matter. You allowed me to grab the lapel, you stacked up so you're allowing space underneath you, and now you're trying to close it down and re-establish control of the lapel. But the straight arm frame on the lapel is so strong now, it's going to be very hard for you to grab and use your muscles to push against it. And if you manage it, well, I'll just go back to working for it. It doesn't bother me. And if you don't manage it, well, happy days, I've advanced the position. Now, this is what I say all the time, and this is kind of another thing that makes the difference between people that are really, really good and people that are like at that level but lose, is the patience. Patience, and then positional problem solving. But what I've noticed, even over the last 6 months of my training, is that Gordon, Marigali, I went back and looked at Hodges to confirm this, Bushesha as well, to a degree. But what these guys all do is they have a plan of what they want to do. And Munis's plan was, I want a lapel wrap, and I want to get into Sayatoshi guard. Or worm guard, or whatever have you, because they're very effective guards. So I'm just going to keep grabbing, keep placing, keep grabbing, keep placing, keep grabbing, keep placing on repeat until you go, okay, fine, you have it, I want to keep working from here. And so it seems to be human nature to get bored very quickly with something and to kind of get annoyed and go, all right, well, just go away then, you have this, and then we'll go from here. But that's actually kind of part of the biggest mistakes that people make, is that they allow something like this to happen that, we'll keep playing in a second. Hang on, we'll play it and I'll keep this explanation going. They allow, say, you see how he's going, no, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. No, you can't have it. And then he gets bored and he goes, all right, fine, you have it. And the grip breaks. He goes back to it, but it's already too late. And so he goes, oh, well, never mind then. I won't bother. I'll just keep playing from grips on. This is a mistake, to allow this and not keep fighting the grip, because he's now hugely behind. And the mistake actually happened 10 seconds ago when he allowed the grip and then stacked up and tried to fight whilst allowing the grip. As I was saying just before, what happens a lot is that people will get bored, and then just allow stuff to happen. And now this is a significantly different position, because we're into lapel wrap on the outside of the leg, underneath the thigh, with the hand going to the outside. So now, we'll rewind it just a second. Now there's a closed loop around this leg. And the closed loop is the lapel and the body because like the lapel and the leg around this leg is the closed loop. And so now this is a very difficult thing because there's a lot of control and it's a very difficult grip to break. And so because Hugo allowed this, he's now in a substantially different position than he was just before, and he's actually behind by quite a fair way. So even though he's got one advantage now, he's still not winning. And now you see that because what this grip on the outside allows is it allows a closed loop still, Munis can open his guard and start working his hips away, and or like stay front onto him as he is. It just depends on which aspect of this Sayatoshi guard he's most comfortable with playing. And now this is very hard for Hugo to maintain balance because of the control on the hip. And you see he gets swept immediately. So from here, the reason why the sweep works is that this back leg is hooking on Hugo's only available base. The only one that was free to move was this left leg of his, because the right leg is trapped with the lapel that's going underneath, the hand that collapses onto it, and the leg that's on the hip pushing this way. So the leg, the hip pressure, not to mention the arm that's stopping the ankle from going backwards, the hip will go backwards, and now the only thing that was free was this hand and this leg. The hand was established with the grip, and now as he's pushing, he's hacking the leg in. So there's not much to be done except for fall. And now he gets up, and it's very, very difficult for Hugo to get back up because the lapel is underneath the thigh, so that he can't put the thigh down so he can get his hips up, and this foot can't go to the floor, so he can't drive up and in. So it's a very beautiful sweep setup, and the only reason why it happened was because Hugo on top got bored fighting for that lapel grip. And so you see he's trying to get up and he's trying to fight it, but this is such a difficult position. Now, the reason why this hand is okay, normally you don't want to do this in this type of position, especially if the person has like a foot underneath your thigh to lift you, because again, it just acts like a pinwheel, and your top hand comes this way, down and in, as your top side goes up and over, and then you get swept over your right shoulder here. The reason why this is okay though for Munis is because his head's lower than this foot, and this foot is now out of the fight. You can't see it, but that's the lapel there into the hand, and the hand is punching down, so the lapel becomes useless. The leg becomes useless. He's diving his head underneath the foot so that Hugo can't push him away, and now the only thing that was stopping him was the foot on the hip, which he now clears, and now Hugo has no ability to off-balance Munis at all. And so it's just positional problem solving at its finest, which is right. I got the sweep. What's the only thing that's stopping me? And can I be threatened by it? So you see that he gets up. He's got his perfect post. Hugo, for his part, is trying to get this foot down now. Munis just stands up, and then Hugo rightly puts the foot on the hip, and that's the only thing that's keeping him in the fight now. What I would be tempted to do if I was Hugo is I'd be trying to put this foot in this space in here, to get on the other hip to push him away, and hopefully play from like a single leg X position. But again, the lapel wrap that you allow is just so strong. But instead he opts for a knee bar. So like again, there's a reason why these guys are better than me. So he makes the right decision and he wins world finals open weight because he did put that foot over the top. And so this teaches me a moment as well as all of us, is that keeping this foot up and not having control over the hips is actually really detrimental. And so in this pass, because he didn't manage to get low enough and sit this hip down, he allowed this rotation up around the corner. And because Munis allowed this foot to go in, he now has put his own foot in the extension of the knee bar. So very well done by Hugo there to win that position. and the mistake came from Munis lifting his head up, and that's what allowed this position where he attacks the knee. So, yeah, wow, that took me by surprise. Yeah, and now I think the mistake there was that Munis was off balance inherently, and he tried to push the legs down, but probably he should have been more heavy. So from here, probably what should have happened, yeah, is he sits, and he should have kept his head down, trying to bring this foot back over the top of the head, and then fight from a top position, and that would have been better. So Hugo had the better decision making than me. I thought that he was in more danger than he was, and so he put this foot over the top and down and in for the knee bar. Yep, and so he latches on. And because he's so connected to the feet, and the feet are crossed now, so one foot goes down, the other foot's coming up. This is a very difficult position for Munis to play. Yeah, and that's a tight knee bar. He's like knee barring both knees, so one is straight and then the other's over the top. That knee looks like that's flexing backwards, and so Munis tries to go the only way he can, which is rolling. But obviously, if you're in finals of open weight, you're just going to wrench that on, and there's not much you can do except for tap at this point. Yep. And I would also be holding my knee because that looked tight. So very good fight. That lasted 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And look, sometimes that's how it goes. It just happens that way. And so the mistake there, and proving me wrong there, for Hugo, was Munis not keeping his head down. Not keeping his head down in this position. As long as that foot, the right foot of Hugo, doesn't come over the top, he's pretty safe. As soon as it does, as soon as it comes over the top, this is now a very dangerous position, and you have to play it slower than Munis did here. Because you either need to, you can't come away. As soon as you come away, the hips just follow you. And so if you allow this foot over the top, funnily enough, you need to try and turn your foot out. You turn your foot the other way, or you rotate it all the way through, trying to get your knee pointed this direction, past the point of the hips. But because his knee is up at the moment, the temptation would be just to like rotate it to the left, to the right, to the right, and just sit heavy with the hips, trying to clear this, and then using this hand to start pushing this leg away. But again, very difficult position to play. Maybe the best option now is actually just to jam the foot down and try and come out of it and just give up a counter sweep back the other way, so that you can shrimp away and then try and scramble out of it somehow rather than committing forwards. It's hard to know what to do as soon as this leg comes over the top and the hips are so curled up and over the top and in. This is a very difficult position to play now. And so that was only a slight mistake that cost him a world finals. But it happens. It happens that way sometimes, and so he'll go away and then he'll work on his pressure positioning down. I firmly believe that this should have been a pass if Munis on top didn't allow this foot down in front of his head. And you can see, because what happened there, exactly what I was saying, is that he tries to go away, but because Hugo was following up and in, and he's got the loop on the legs, there's no base now for Munis to stick his foot out. And so he tries to push down, but because he has no foot to frame off and up and in, it's going to be very hard to stop this backward roll and the sweep that goes to the floor. And now from here, this is his last shot. He should be ripping himself that way. So he should be turning his whole body that way and then using this hand on the hip to frame and just like wrenching himself out. Yeah, probably what happens is it doesn't work, or Hugo comes up and takes the back, or gets up on top again. But if the choice is getting submitted or working from a bottom position, you choose working from a bottom position. Very good performance by Hugo. Very good performance. Really, really good jiu-jitsu. I really love how he comes and checks on his opponent as well. That's really nice. And it's like, I like the celebration. That's probably a reasonable celebration too. Knowing the last time I said, my coach said, act like you've been there before, but honestly, winning an open weight world finals is probably cause for celebration. And that was a really nice thing that he did, coming to check on the opponent. Yeah, that looked like a tight knee bar. Good fight, guys. Really good fight. Next time. Well, I hope you guys liked it. We'll play it till the hand comes up. The star jump comes out. And I really love that as soon as he's done celebrating, it comes time to say thanks. He does, and he doesn't rub it in his face. He just makes sure it's okay. Like, look at the concern on his face for Munis here. Absolutely top tier sportsmanship. Really well done, guys. And I really like analyzing these videos again, because I was wrong about the decision making, and so I get to learn a bunch as well. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This was a bit of a shorter video. Only 26 minutes this time rather than an hour. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know down below. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Thanks, guys.